This is when Celtic come alive, bring it on. Not my words, the words of Brendan Rodgers post-match after Celtic dealt with St Mirren 3-0 this afternoon at Celtic Park. This is Tino with the Final Whistle Show, joined here by Paddy. Paddy, your initial response to the win?
Yeah, very happy. I think quite a turgid performance in the first half from us. I do think we were up against the weather. It was crazy inside Celtic Park today with that wind. But I have to say a lot of credit to St Mirren in the way that they kind of stifled us. Actually looked as if they were going for it a little bit in the first half as well. They were trying to get in behind us. So some really good defending at points from us today. But yeah, trying to pass out to the back just wasn't happening, and I generally felt that the wind played a massive part in the game overall. So really comfortable come the end, and I was waiting on that. But St Mirren should take a lot of credit for the day. They've had a really good season and deserve to be where they are. And I think even our manager's been very complimentary of them. And yeah, well done to them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lad, Daniel Henderson, I think his name is. Daniel frequently comments on the show, and thanks to Daniel for doing so. He did suggest during the week that we, or maybe me specifically, was continually making excuses for Brendan Rodgers, injuries, not supported in the transfer window, and now he's not going to be happy because I am going to blame the weather for a lot of what happened in that first half. I think what you've got, Paddy, is Celtic very much trying to play football as we always do, but conditions just didn't allow for it. You know, players are second guessing their first touch because you just can't predict it. And if you were watching it and you were unsure just how bad the weather was, all the ticker tape and banners and things floating around the park, swirling around, and actually that remained the case right to the end of the game. And that's difficult, for any team to play in, isn't it?
It is. It was like Sunday League stuff, to be honest. Just the way that balls were getting launched low and they were carrying all the way through. Very, very difficult to read. But in a lot of the times, the goalkeepers were maybe taking their goal kicks and putting it up in the air, and it was just hanging. So I think both teams had to kind of adapt to that. Both teams had to deal with that, absolutely. I don't think we escaped from some criticism. I thought there was some poor performances in the first half from some of the starting 11. I include Yang in that. I think he's very much a confidence player, Tino. And I just think that he's probably feeling a lot of the slack for last week after giving Matondo the goal. He's still young, but really, I just thought he was really poor today. And I hate to say it, I thought the missing man for us in the first half and then get into the second half was Tomoki Iwata. Thought I didn't see him at all today, which is a little bit concerning. I thought bringing the ball out for the back, and Nawrocki and Carter Vickers were comfortable with it, but we were hugging the wings too much. We want to play it direct, we want to play it quick, and especially in those conditions, we weren't allowed to do it because we needed a number 6, and he just wasn't there today.
It's interesting you say that about Iwata. So I was at the game with James and my dad, and coming away from it, we were talking about Iwata, and generally speaking, both myself and James, we're both fans of him, but doesn't mean he escapes criticism. But both thought that he was quietly effective. He got caught on his heels once in particular. I think he got a foul for it, but he was a wee bit sluggish. I think that was the first half. But generally speaking, I think he just allowed the game to tick. However, I'm going to contradict myself slightly in that when Callum McGregor came on, he was all over it. He was really played the same position, but really impacting the game, dropping deep, popping it off to Carter Vickers, popping it left, right, up, down, whatever. And all of a sudden, looking to go and have an impact in the game. Yep. Whereas I wonder to an extent, is Tomoki Iwata playing within himself and just trying not to make mistakes and keep things safe? We spoke before last week's game, didn't we, about the midfield 3. Callum McGregor, Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate are all game changers. They can go and score you an important goal or they can create an important goal. Tomoki Iwata isn't and probably never will be that guy. So it really depends what he's been asked to do by the manager. So I can see all sides of that argument. Yang, yes, I think he's maybe just feeling the pressure. He was getting a lot of criticism after his mistake that led to 3 each last week. And folks were saying, he's taking out the firing line and different things. I'm not quite sure. I thought it was good management to put him back in there and show him that you trust him. But I don't think he quite responded. Maybe he was playing within himself. And what you had was a situation where I thought Yang, for the most part, on the left side and Kuhn on the right-hand side had very different games, and Kuhn was very much trying to have an impact. What about Kuhn in general, Paddy? What do you think about what he's bringing to the table?
again, I just thought it was one of those games where we're talking about him at half time today. He's almost frustrating. I think a few times today he was beating his man and the pass was there, but there was an extra touch and then the angle was going, or like with so many players kind of queuing up in the 18-yard line, I thought today, and I just felt that we were a little bit slow on that. I get that there's a lot of different factors in there. What I like to see about him is that he's not the strongest, but he was getting himself stuck in there. I think he was right up against any of their play today and really chasing the game down a lot better than what he was doing last week at Ibrox in the first half. Mm-hmm. Second half, he gets a bit more space, comes into his own, and actually was a lot more effective. I actually think that maybe that was the instruction. For me, second half, the link up between O'Reilly, Nicholas Kuhn and Alistair Johnston, I thought was really, really good. I know we'll maybe come on to it, but I thought Alistair Johnston was man of the match today. I thought he was outstanding. But yeah, Nicholas Kuhn really, it was a game of two halves for him, I thought. He gets in very good positions, but I just think the final ball sometimes just letting him down. And he's got a good delivery of the ball. That's the most frustrating bit.
Yeah. Let's take it back to the start, Paddy. So, as always, we tend to cover the lineup and what we called, what we didn't. Myself and Bridle spoke yesterday, Friday, on the pre-match. It was a fairly predictable team to pick, I think. I was always convinced it was going to be Yang and Kuhn on the wings. I didn't think, Palmer was ready just yet. Didn't think James Forrest would have got the start. So fairly predictable on that front. I wasn't sure, though, if Brendan Rodgers would maybe have gone with Stephen Welsh alongside Carter Vickers, which he has done on a few occasions. But Nawrocki comes in, and I think there's been a real clamour for Nawrocki. I think you're keen. In fact, I think everyone's keen, Paddy, to see more of what he's got. So what do you think about the team lineup in general, and what do you think about what Nawrocki brought today?
I thought, for me, I was happy with the lineup. I think that I'm speaking about Idah today. I don't think he was pivotal or had a massive reason for us to fail or anything today. I do think he was involved in it. I just thought he was very quiet. And for an attacking team like Celtic, in that six, you're still playing an attacking role. Stephen Welsh coming in normally in the back line is it's been more the thing this season, and I think that take nothing away from the Brodsky and take nothing away from Stephen Welsh, I think it's come down to injuries and who's been fit at the time. And I think the big man's had a very unlucky season. And actually, for a guy that's hardly kicked the ball all season, I thought he looked very comfortable. Again, talking about those moments where they were trying to play the ball in behind us, the wind was carrying it, so therefore creating a bit of a chase between him and I don't know the guy's name up front for St Mirren.
Olisanya.
Yeah, and I think that there was a good chase on between the two of them, but he looked very comfortable and he was ready for whatever he had to do, like to get it back to Joe Hart, to get it out, play it out. That's fine. Comfortable defending in tough conditions. And for me, to get an hour under your belt, I'll make a bold claim here. I think it's his jersey for the rest of the season.
That is interesting because obviously Liam Scales has been the man with the shirt for the most part. Carter Vickers is a stick on if he's fit, and it's who the other guy is going to be. Liam Scales has now played something like 38 games this season. He's played a lot of football. I think he picked up an injury to his abductor muscle. And Brendan Rodgers, I heard him on the radio after the game saying he's hopeful he might be back to it this week. But yeah, he's then got a call to make. You make a great point about the couple of situations in the first half where Nawrocki was, it was him and Olisanya kind of in a foot race. The couple of times there he was facing his own goal and he had a challenge, on his back. And what I think he done, he certainly showed decent pace. He also showed good positional awareness. He had his body between his man and the ball. On one occasion, he had the composure to bring it back to Joe Hart. On another occasion, it wasn't quite on, and he just yelled into the North Stand and we regroup. And I'm okay with both. Yeah. I think there's times as a defender to play ball, and there's times when to clear your lines. And I thought he handled it pretty well. He got a warm reception as well when he left the park. What was that? An hour in, something like that for Stephen Welsh. So I think that was all pretty good. I was going to ask you for first half highlights. Not a lot to speak of, Paddy. It was quite a fairly boring half to watch. There was nothing great happening from Celtic's point of view. As much as Kuhn was trying to make things happen, we didn't quite get to the byline and flash any across for Kyogo. Couple of half chances. I think Rio had a shot from the edge of the box, Matt O'Reilly from the edge of the box. But no real drama, no VAR calls, no nothing.
No.
Head knock situation where I think Yang caught somebody at the back post. Not sure your own take on that, Paddy. I know you've got a better vantage point than me from that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yang get treated, the guy get treated, and Yang had to go off, but the guy got to come on for the resulting corner.
So I clocked the player. I clocked the St Mirren player in that one, and actually, I hate saying it, but it was the right call. St Mirren player said he didn't need the treatment,
right?
And the referee actually flagged Celtic's physios on the park. So I think it's if your physios come on, Yang said he wanted the treatment, then he has to go off after a head knock. But the St Mirren player says, no, I'm okay. But actually, it looks like he's been the one that's dealt with a concussion in the second half.
Fair enough. If the ref's called that right, then absolutely. Paddy, I will give you 5 Celtic Exchange dollars if you can name the player that went off for St Mirren after the head knock.
I'm really sorry, St Mirren. I've not paid attention to you much this season at all. I could only name a handful, but they're not on the back line apart from Gogic. The
player in question was Elvis Buomono.
What a name. I watched Elvis last night. There you go.
Yeah. So hopefully he's okay. He went down just after, didn't he? Went down 5 minutes later, and it was the end of his day. And yep, hopefully he's making a full recovery. But yeah, in terms of first half action points, that aside, nothing really doing. We see the goalkeeper taking an age with goal kicks and free kicks. I don't want to keep moaning about it. It's just that it's a thing that happens. And
sorry to interrupt you, very clever on it as well, though. A couple of times the ball was going out of play and he was grabbing the ball behind the goals and just rolling it on. At any Celtic corner, if we were taking it down to the corner spot, he was, or a corner flag, he was bringing the spare ball out into the park and just rolling it out. He was a bit all over with it, and I think that we're going to come up against that, against teams that want to try and grab a result. Johnny, who I sit next to, made a very good point. It was more along the lines of we never seen like probably about 25 minutes of football a day. The rest of it was it was so stop start, and I think Stephen McLean plays a part in that as well. Just ludicrous stoppages, holding people back to taking quick free kicks, and then, as I said at the beginning, the wind, you're up against quite a few wee things there. I'm all right with it. I wasn't upset at the end of the first half. I was a thought, yeah, a bit drab, but I thought, I said to the guys as we went in at half time, I think, yeah, we'll come out and do the business, and I was happy with that.
Yeah, you've got a situation where I think if Stephen McLean or whoever the ref is, if he makes the booking early, it just deals with that. You know, if you book somebody within the first 10, 15 minutes, that's the end of that. But what you do is, if you allow that to keep going on, they will do it as long as they're allowed to do so. And I think whether it's Stephen McLean or any other ref, Paddy, whether you think they lean towards Rangers or Celtic or anything else, what they should lean towards as a referee is entertaining, free-flowing football. Let the game flow. And if there's guys doing things which disrupt that, play acting, time wasting, diving in the box, which I think we've seen in the first half, Olisanya, I think, was your man for that. These are things that it's in your gift as a ref to cut them out and to ultimately make the product better, to make the game more entertaining. And it doesn't have to favour Celtic Rangers. It should be in the interest of everyone in Scottish football that games are allowed to flow better. But listen, that's maybe just referee moaning for the sake of it from my side. Second half, Paddy, a whole lot different. So Celtic come out, and I think you've seen intent from an early stage. Miff, it doesn't take much to upset Miff at times. He's not happy at half time. No. He's not quite resorted to Rodgers out, but he's pretty close to, that's
close to it.
Half kidding, half serious, that kind of thing. But what do you think about the response that we've seen from Celtic early in that second half?
I was very expectant of it. As I said, I'm not just saying this for the sake of it. I think that we had the wind behind us. I think it kind of stifled our play. There was passes going too late and players running too early a lot of the time in the first half. And we needed a goal just to settle us down. As I said, there was some poor performances. I thought Greg Taylor was a bit off it today, some poor passing. But come the second half, it just seemed to settle, and a very, very good time to get the goal as well. Just after the 50th minute mark, it really calmed us down. And I think from there, we just, I don't think there was any stopping us. I think it was a bit of a body blow for St Mirren, and they didn't really recover from there. So we looked comfortable. I'm saying it was a poor first half from us, but a really, really strong second half. And things are starting to click. As we've spoke about, we're still without some of our strongest players in that team today, and the guys that were on, I thought, done really well, and I know we'll come on to it. I thought the subs done well too.
Yeah, do you know, I quoted it at the top of the shop here, but the quote from Brendan Rodgers, which I'm sure you heard on the radio, this is when Celtic as a club come alive, bring it on, all these things. He sounds really energised for me. People were very quick to, and maybe ourselves included, be body language experts and language experts at the early part of the season. Rodgers doesn't want to be here. He's not at himself. He's not enjoying it. Why did he come back? All that. That's out the window. He is well up for the fight here, Paddy. We're obviously going to cut through the goals and assess them just now, but Brendan Rodgers himself seems very in the mood for whatever this title battle is going to be, doesn't he?
Listen, there was a lot of headaches when he arrived at Celtic. There's so much doubt. We lose Carl Starfelt, we lose Jota, some of our biggest players, and then we're not bringing the quality in that he felt that the team needed, or it was probably even touted, where we're bringing in more project players. You then got the injuries that we faced at the beginning of the season. So I think that what we see is a manager who could easily turn around and say, this is not going our way at all. I'm up against it. I'm working with who I've got. He's working with a very bloated squad, as we mentioned before as well. But now what you're seeing is someone that's finally got a whole squad wanting to play for him, understanding what it means. A lot of new guys have not experienced this winning side, as we've mentioned, but we've now got the players coming back into the team that have got that experience of going and lifting trophies. Even seen it the day after Hatate's goal. See that little moment with the fans and geeing them up and just saying, like, come on. I thought the crowd were good at the beginning of the game. In the second half,
thank you.
I thought the reception was strong just to get behind them. So yeah, I think everyone's in it.
I think you're spot on, and we kind of called that, but as I say, we're doing the pre-match, and based on what Celtic gave us last week, real strong performance at Ibrox, you felt it was going to be quite a frenzied atmosphere today, and I think everyone played their part. I thought there was a real supportive element going on, and we've all been at Celtic Park at times this season where the anxiety's crept in and the moans and groans, and the players haven't got away with any slack passing. Didn't feel like that today. I thought there was a real positive energy, despite a pretty poor first half. As a spectacle, I just thought the fans really played their part, from first minute to last, and it was great to see. Thanks, as always, to the various comments that are coming in. Comment from Paradise View. It's terrible but great at the same time, Paddy. Talking about Elvis, he asked, was it a head knock or was he all shook up?
I'm all for that.
I've got to encourage comments like that. We've also been joined by somebody new who's picked up on us through the Battle to Save Celtic series. His username, Paddy, I think, is being the bar steward, if I'm being polite about it. I don't know how folks get these usernames, but thanks to him for joining us. And various, other guests, Northampton Tim, Jerry O'Donnell, George Barr, Stephen McDonald, and the various guys, Colin Stewart. Thanks as always for your comments. Keep them coming in. We'll be here for another 20 minutes or so. So if you get any points on the game that you want me and Paddy to discuss, please do share them here. Paddy, let's talk about Rio Hatate. First of all, his impact on this Celtic side, and what a strike to open the scoring.
Yeah, a very good goal. Just a typical Hatate goal if you give him enough space like that. And what I thought was pretty clever, he's had a few chances since he's come back, and it's all been about maybe placing it low behind the keeper with a bit of power, a bit of pace behind it. That one had just sat up beautifully, and he knew hit this with the goalkeepers and getting nowhere near it. It's a great finish. I thought he was one of the ones in the first half that kind of ticked us over. But I do think he was starved of a bit of service, and I go back to the Iwata thing and that. And he's not the kind of player that wants to hug out in the wings. He wants to go through the middle. But he was still pretty much involved, and actually gets stuck in quite a bit as well. I thought he was really, really strong in preventing their midfield try and take it up against us. I thought he was he was right up for it today from start to finish. Second half, he comes into it on his own and just, as I said, I don't know how many times in the first half he was at the edge of the 18-yard waiting for the ball, and just showed the same in the second, showing some desire, and just looks to be happy to be back playing football. And perfect time for him to come back, as we've mentioned already, but he seems as if he wants it. So that's the main bit.
He's got a lot of desire, Paddy. I think you find him in various areas of the park. He doesn't stay central. He doesn't, obviously you've got a Iwata that sits and protects Hillau, O'Reilly and Hatate to be more advanced. I don't know what you'd call them in the modern game, number 8s / number 10s, not entirely sure, but they generally should sit in that high pocket. But at times, Rio Hatate's coming towards left back to pick up the ball,
Yeah.
and then he's out at right mid, and then he's in the edge of the box, as you say. And then, most importantly, he finds himself in great space to hit what I think is a brilliant finish. I wasn't quite sure what he was going to do with it, the way it landed, but he's crashed it high into the net. And at that point in the game, so it's 52nd minute, it just allows you to relax. I spoke to Sean after the game, Sean Carman, that we know well, and I was saying to Sean that if it goes 70, 75 and then into 80 minutes, that's when the anxiety can creep in for players and fans alike. But for Rio to score after 52 minutes, it just unlocked Celtic, didn't it? It just allowed us to start playing.
It did, and as I said, I think there would have been a lot of fans there today that would have made the comparison to some of the home games this season, and quite rightly so. I can understand that, but I just think there's been enough about us of late that even when teams are trying to play compact against us, we've got enough about us to go and basically get in behind a lot quicker. As I said, like, I know it's sounding a little bit confident, and I don't want to go on the "I told you so" kind of bracket, but I didn't worry at half time. I thought, nah, we'll come out and take goals off them. They had one style of play, and as I said, they were very controlled in what they were doing. A couple of times they could have got in behind us, but the second half was, let's try and possibly get a Barotia with a point, and Celtic, nah, we just didn't allow it. But Hatate's a big part of that in the second half, set the tempo.
What you do see at Celtic Park at times from the opposition is they're almost quite happy to accept 1-0 as long as it can stay 1-0, because they're still in the game right to the death, and then they can throw a set piece in the box. And we've seen it from St Mirren and Motherwell at times at Celtic Park this season.
We've seen it for Rangers this season as well at Celtic Park. Just that it's dictating the pace of the game. We want to play quick football, and you're mentioning earlier on, and as I said as well about the stopping and the starting, a lot of leagues across Europe are looking at ways to try and combat that. I think the Premier League from next season, the boy or girl's not allowed to touch the ball. They've got to put it on a cone, and the player's got to retrieve.
Oh.
So it's basically allowing the player to get the ball and get the game going straight away. So there's no slowing the game down or speeding it up and giving that unfair advantage. So
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that come in here, or well, maybe not. We'll see.
I'm all for that. And as I said when I was talking about Steve McLean and refs in general, anything that speeds up the game and allows the free flowing of the game. There was also speculation that they're going to start testing the new offside rule, where a player can almost, the offensive player that is, can almost be a full body ahead of someone as long as some part of them is crossed over with some part of the defender, and that could open up the game. The advantage should generally always be given to the striker. The game is about goals. If you don't have goals, you don't have a game. And VAR so far has come in and tried its best and continues to try its best to chop off goals in football. That can't be a healthy thing. But again, different discussion for a different day. You mentioned Alistair Johnson as your potential man of the match. It was him who laid it off to Hatate for the first goal. Mm-hmm. And he whips in a wicked ball for Kyogo. Kyogo missed a glancing header just before it. I think he took it off Carter Vickers, but he made no mistake that time. I thought it was a brilliant goal.
I think that first one you're talking about with Carter Vickers has been the shout for CCV that's maybe put him off. And then he's even realised himself when he's turned round, that's a better chance for him. His movement, you heard Rodgers talking about it, just pulls his defender in, drops him in almost with his left back, and then just pulls away from him. It's incredible. Guy didn't know where he was, and just a great header. Yeah. Not even glancing, just a good firm header. Listen, great seeing both our strikers score today. I really love that. A
brilliant boost. Number 9s are there to score goals, and delighted to see that. And we'll get to Adam Idah in a minute. From Kyogo, Paddy, from his point of view, I think it was right to start him. He's still your first choice number 9, despite how good Idah was at Ibrox. But Kyogo gave you, in a positive sense, a very Kyogo-type performance. He makes his runs time after time after time, and more times than not, he doesn't get it. We don't see the pass, and he just regroups, gets himself back on side and makes the run again. And he hadn't had much luck or any clear-cut chances up until that point, out with the glancing header that I mentioned. But he made no mistake. And ultimately, the game's dead at 2-0. It's that killer second goal that happened right on the hour mark. And he was delighted, as he always is. Like any striker, he thrives on scoring goals. But he as much as anybody, has got such a huge part to play in this run. And he's not hit the heights, certainly of last season and potentially his first season. But he's such an important part of what Celtic are doing here.
He's massive for us. He's an incredible striker, and I think that I don't want to be too heavy on Idah here. It sounds as if I am. I think if you look at the flow, the tempo of our first half, a lot of it coming down to wing play. It sometimes just makes Kyogo disappear for the game a little bit if it's hoping and just waiting for the ball to come in from the side, from the wingers. Anytime the ball was getting played into him, I generally thought he had both Gogic and Big Elvis on toast, to be honest. He's very comfortable with the ball at his feet. And actually, it kind of took me back. We were talking about Idah coming on last week at Ibrox and some of the hold-up play and terrorising Suter and Goldson. I think if there was a lot more balls played into Kyogo, I think there'll be some footage you'll watch back. If he wants, he's got Goldson all day on the turn. He really does. He's very comfortable in close knit areas to kind of keep a hold of the ball, keep it tight to him. And I think we should try and utilise that a lot more. I really do.
Yeah, and I also think whether it's Rangers or St Mirren or whoever we're up against, having to deal with Kyogo for 60 minutes or 60 minutes plus, and then Idah, which is a very different type of challenge. Because actually, I commented at half time that Gogic was cutting a bit like Baresi at times, strolling out of defence and dropping the shoulder and making the pass. I thought he had a decent half. He's one of the few defenders, and I think St Mirren do try and play football to their credit, but he doesn't just hammer it forward. He's trying to make things happen, and he's a midfielder who's found himself as a centre half, and he tries to play ball. When Idah came on, that changed, and that's what ultimately led to the third goal. But we'll get to that in due course. The subs, Paddy. This was my biggest concern of the day. So we've got Mike Navrocki goes off in the 65th minute for Stephen Welsh. All fine. Nothing to worry about here. Then Celtic make what I would describe as the less spotted quadruple substitution. Yeah. 4 guys come on. So it's Bernardo, Callum McGregor, Louis Palmer, Idah, and off go Rio Hatate, Tomoki Iwata, Yang, and Kyogo. So that's your subs for the day. Or is it? Right? 5 subs have gone. We then make a further sub when James Forrest comes on in 80 minutes. And the lads behind me were saying, oh, there's Kunganov and Forrest coming on. I says, lads, relax. We've used the subs. It's all good here. I know Fitba, mate. There's 5 subs and that's us. And they're like, no, Forrest coming on. So Forrest comes on. Am I the only guy, Paddy, that got anxious that we'd made an arse of that and somehow got it wrong with the subs? How are you feeling?
I don't think the SFA or the SPFL would have had as many hits at the same time. When I'm in people looking up the rule book, honest to God, I would straight on my phone. I was like, no, that's definitely at the 6. We can't do that. Johnny, who I sat next to, was saying, but surely the SFA, the referees wouldn't have allowed that to happen. And I was like, who the hell are you kidding here, mate?
Yeah. Like, would they?
And then obviously St Mirren, nothing for their bench as well about it. So I was pretty worried. I'm not going to lie, but a good learning moment for all of us, I suppose, today. So
yeah. So just to clarify, it was a concussion sub. So St Mirren were allowed to take Elvis off on the basis of concussion. So that allowed us to make an extra substitution in the game. You're different from me, Paddy. I get zero signal of any nature at Celtic Park. There's no use in my phone at Celtic Park, so I couldn't check. And the guys asking me, and I just didn't know what was going on. I may have fell outside the stadium. Tony Aitken, if Tony's watching, and Tony asked me if I knew, and I just didn't have the answer. But he since tweeted to clear it up. So always good, Paddy. Nothing to see here, and we've all learned something here today, and that's the important thing.
I was going to say it was for Yang's head knock last week, and that's beaten just getting round to it. But
guys, just catching up. So anyway, so that clears up. So Celtic are allowed to make the 6 subs. I've mentioned the 4 that came on and the 4 that came off during that quadruple sub. But the guy that I do want to dwell on, at least for a time, is Idah. There was huge calls for him to get the start after his impact at Ibrox. Brilliant goal, really, really important third goal. Could potentially be a title-winning type goal. You know, such an important strike to get at Ibrox to ensure that we got a point on the day. And he comes on today and does what we now know he does. First and foremost, he was going to put the brakes on Alex Gogic and make sure he didn't have it, all his own way. And ultimately, when push came to shove, he's rolled him in a situation which created, I think, was it a 4-on-1 it ended up? Maybe 3-on-1 at least. James Forrest played his part. Wee bit of pinball wizard in the box, but eventually it comes to Idah, who's got the savages to get the header on it, and it loops over the despairing hand of the goalkeeper. And 3-0 was absolutely the fair scoreline. Could have been 4 or 5, but 3-0 just puts a nice wee gloss on it. 1-0s and 2-0s are fine, and any 3 points is important right now. 3-0 just put a nice bit of gloss on the scoreline, didn't it?
It does. I think the mental side of it as well. You're we've spoke about the momentum lately. We're scoring goals. We really are, and I feel confident going into every game we're going to score against anyone we play. And I thought that today we were very strong in the defence as well. So both halves for me, we take a lot from it. Albeit a bit slower on the attacking side in the first half, of course. It just keeps things moving. You look back at your last few results, and you start looking at we're really, really starting to click at the moment. And as I say, if we get the likes of Callum McGregor back up to speed, if we have a settled back line for the last 5 games, 6 or 7 with the cup games potentially, it's full steam ahead, in my opinion. I think we're in a good place at the moment.
I think so. What about Idah, just briefly? So, comment that you'll see on your screen from David. David said he waited until after the game. Players came out the stadium and there was a Japanese fan cheering for Idah, which is not something you'd see every day, I suppose, saying that they want him to stay. Do you want him to stay, Paddy? Do you think he can have an impact on what Brendan Rodgers is trying to achieve in the next 2-3 years, if you like?
Yeah, I was talking to Johnny about it after his goal. I think he's the kind of player that's going to score those scrappy goals that are always scored against us in Europe and in big games. I think he's in and about everything, but I also think he's got a bit of finesse about him as well. And for a guy that size, he's not slow. He's not slow as we've spoke about, but it's his positional sense for me. He knows where to press the defender. He knows the right time to do it. And I just think that he's going to offer us so much. You think about some of the games in Europe you play, and you've got a target man. I think he's the kind of guy that fits into that mould. I really do, with being able to control and hold the ball up with his feet as well. So it's a no-brainer. I think we should be speaking to Norwich now and hopefully see what we can do.
And I think it's clear to see the contribution he's had so far on this title. So I think it's 7 goals now. Need to double check. I think 7 goals and 2 assists, but all very important goals. No more so than last week at Ibrox, but he's scored winners against Hibs and Motherwell. And he's, as I say, put the gloss on that one today. So 86 minute, Idah makes it 3-0 and we're good to go. And I think, generally speaking, Paddy, I'm sure it was the same around you. Just a really good feeling coming out the stadium, good vibes all around and real positive energy. The other big plus, of course, is that Callum McGregor comes in as part of his recovery. I think it was a risk. We gambled last week and didn't quite pay off. He wasn't quite ready. But I think given the nature of that game, they kind of had to make that move. He's a club captain. He's inspirational to the players around him. But I think they managed him well today. They got him in for whatever it was, maybe 25 minutes. And as I said earlier on there, he came on for a water, but he was hungry just to keep it ticking along. He's a very talented technical player. He gets it, he moves it, he gets it, he moves it. And he's always available for his players. So whether it's Carter Vickers or Joe Hart or anyone looking up, Callum McGregor's there. And listen, it's a huge understatement. I've talked about how Kyogo and how important he is. Callum McGregor's massive to what we're looking to achieve.
He's huge. And I think... it's actually quite a risky time to go and make 4 substitutions because a goal from St Mirren, after that, it's quite a rocky final 20 minutes. But as you mentioned, he picked up the pace of the game very quickly and dictated the tempo, bringing us out from the back. I thought he was very strong. And ultimately, St Mirren, as we said in the first half, they kind of were very compact. They didn't really want to shift that. I actually think they get more narrower in the second. So the freedom of space created allowed more exposure to the likes of Matt O'Reilly, and then obviously to the likes of Bernardo coming on as well. I thought Bernardo got involved, but it's all very quick passing from a back 4 and Callum McGregor that allows us to kind of get him behind that way. So he needs it. He needs the games. As I say, there's 7 games left, very big games, and Callum McGregor's got a big part to play.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you get that situation where the subs can disrupt the flow of the game. And I do think for a time it did do that. I think Celtic were getting a lot of change down the right-hand side. Alistair Johnston and Kuhn seem to have a good thing going on, don't they? They seem to link up very well. And I thought they were giving the St Mirren fullback a torrid time and started to create quite a lot of chances. Johnston's crossing was spot on today for the most part. And then you bring on the subs, and as much as at that time it wasn't Kuhn or Johnston that came off, it just changes the flow of the game. There's different things going on. Palmer came on, didn't really do much, did he? There's a few things happening there, and Celtic just had to regroup a bit, but then they found their flow again and started to really dominate that game. If that was one of those games where the ref had put up the board for 8, 9, 10 minutes, could have been 5-0, because I think Celtic were attacking at will at that point. But listen, we take 3-0, Paddy. Delighted with that, and we move on. What about the bigger picture? What do you think that does to the title race? Let's say psychologically at this moment in time, we're now 4 points clear. Rangers have got 2 points in hand. They need to go to Dingwall tomorrow. No easy place at the best of times. So what do you think in terms of how it's generally shaping up right now?
For me now, the focus is on the cup, Tino. I think we've done our bit at the moment. We're 4 points clear. Our focus is looking at Aberdeen next week. That's a competition that we still want to go and win. We're up to speed. That's the way I'm looking at it. We're up to speed. Anyone that we're coming up against, I think we'll fancy our chances against. And we don't have 2 league games coming up this week. So we're looking for what we're going to do against Aberdeen. And I just think that, just keep one game at a time at this point. Very, very confident about things just now. Guy on the radio today on Sports Sound was absolutely brilliant, Celtic fan. And he was asked by Kenny Mack and Tom English about what percentage would he give Celtic to go and win the league. And he came away with 95%, and they almost scoffed at it. Tom English especially, which I'm not surprised at. But I think a lot of Celtic fans listen. We know it's been an up and down season, but we also know that we've been in these positions and we're very much involved in what's going on here, and it's very much in our control. And I just think that experience is going to shine through here. I really do. Yeah,
and I was listening to Brendan Rodgers' interview. I don't know, was it Chris McLaughlin interviewed him? They were trying to... Kerridine, that's in. They were trying to get the headline from him. You're in a good place now, Brendan. You're in the driving seat. Words to that effect. Listen, I mentioned last week that Brendan Rodgers, out with his record against Rangers, which is 1 loss in 16, 12 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss in 16. He also knows how to manage that fixture in the lead up to the game, during the game, and after the game. He knows how to play the media. He knows how to coach his players. He knows how to manage the dressing room and all the expectations and everything that goes around that. He also knows how to win a league title, Paddy. It's all he's ever known from his time in Scotland. All he ever done here was turn up and win leagues, and then he moved on. Now he's back here, and he's getting asked the same questions, and it's almost, dare I say, too easy for him, because they're trying to set him up for the headline, and he's just going, no, we're in a good place, we're working well, let's look to the next game. And it's always been the message, and it is such a cliche in football, but it just allows for focus. It allows for the laser focus that you need to go and win titles in Scotland, because we're in this 2-horse race scenario where if you get distracted or caught up by your own hype, caught up by your own, if you're playing well one week, you can come falling down, very sharply here in Scotland. And I think he just knows how to temper that. And he knows that players listen as well as fans. The players will be back heading home in their cars or tuning in online and various things later on. They hear exactly what the manager says, and he's just sending out the right message. And as much as today was great, very quickly you need to put it to bed and say what's next. And for Celtic, what's next is a break from the pressure of league stuff, and it's a trip to Hampden, and it's something to look forward to against Aberdeen. We'll be catching, various things in the lead up to that, Paddy. We'll do a preview later on in the week. But generally speaking, where's your focus at in terms of the Cup? How do you feel about it, and how important a part it could play in this season?
Yeah, as I say, Celtic should be trying to win everything. I think that we've got the best team in the country, and when fully fit, we should be flexing that. Semi-finals and finals are obviously always difficult games, but with the sounds of it, we're going to have the majority at Hampden. Another pathetic attempt from a team asking for 50%. So I think that the place will be rocking. Good surface. And I just think, he mentioned just about looking forward to getting back to Hampden. He says he missed it this season. Things just feel good at the moment. And I've mentioned Celtic having a swagger over recent years and when to use it and when not to use it. I think that they're starting to get it again, and I think it's the right time to do so. They seem focused, they seem switched on, and I think they know the players that have been there, the players that have done it before, are going to guide these guys through for the run-in. Exciting, must be so exciting for all of those ones that haven't experienced a title run-in, a trophy run-in, just getting an idea of this is when it really matters, and feeling that support for the crowd is going to be massive as well. So I'm feeling confident.
Yeah, and the words of Brendan Rodgers they very much echo that, Paddy. It's things like, this is when we come alive, bring it on, we're in a good place. Mm-hmm. There's a real positive energy about what Celtic are doing there. And I repeat this often, but whether you like Brendan Rodgers or not, we need to get behind them, because we've got a league to win here. And I think, as witnessed in the stadium today, and from everyone else, not everyone can make it to the games, but just the noise and the vibe you're getting online and through things that we do. There's just a real good positive energy around here just now, and I think that's what's needed to get Celtic over the line. The semi-final at Hampden next week is one to look forward to, but there's no doubt what the big ticket is here this season, and I think Celtic are in a really strong position to go and deliver, Paddy. Yourself and Miff, you're unavailable tomorrow for the weekly show, so for now, Paddy, I'll take your closing comments on another big win for Celtic.
I just much of a muchness, Tino. I think it was disappointing last Sunday after being 2-0 up and then getting the third goal with so little time left on the clock. But for your manager to kind of come out and say those words about, you know, what can we do here? What can we do in order to kind of keep the momentum going? And then to go and have a convincing display today. I didn't feel under threat at all. I don't think St Mirren made Joe Hart work at all. If Celtic lose this league, it's Celtic's fault. I think that's the big thing. I don't think there's been much up against us. I think we look at the league we've conceded. We've played some very decent sides outside of Rangers as well. But for me, it's an exciting time. It's a really exciting time, and I'm looking forward to the rest of April, the month of May, and see where we're at. And then I'm also looking forward to see what we do in the summer as well. So it's this club, isn't it? It just gets us all excited. Especially a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, coming away for that. Can't wait for the draw for the split fixtures to finally come out. Can't wait to see where we're going to be playing and how that maps the rest of the season out. And yeah, let's just go for it.
Do you know, lots to get excited about, Paddy, lots to look forward to. We've been saying this for a while now, but we're down to a stage where we're just chalking the games off, and there's 5 cup finals in terms of the league stuff.
Yeah.
There's a genuine semi-final against Aberdeen, and then what is hopefully a real cup final at Hampden on the 25th of May, a special day in Celtic history. Paddy, thanks for joining us today. Thanks to everyone who's joined us here on the live chat, and also to everyone that listens to us in podcast format. As Brendan Rodgers says, this is when Celtic come alive, lads. Enjoy it. This is what it's all about. We'll see you on Monday for the weekly show.